Hey now, welcome. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson. This is WVON 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago, the voice of the nation, my favorite radio station. And we are creating millionaires, one family at a time. That means you. Yes, you. I'm talking to you. It means the person next to you. It means your neighbor. It means your best friend. It means your worst enemy. It means all of us. And we are creating millionaires one family at a time, one day at a time, $1 at a time, one dime at a time. And it's all up to you to embrace your future. It's all up to you to embrace what is possible. It is all up to you whether or not you keep moving or you remain stagnant. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable once again, and I am Lynn Richardson. It's WVON, and I'm so excited to share this topic today. You know, I spend a lot of time talking about what's possible. I spend a lot of time dissecting what is wrong. I spend a lot of time educating about adding up the mathematics, just 1 + 1 = 2, and spending less money and doing what you have to do and knowing how to save and knowing how to start a home-based business. I spend a lot of time giving out practical information that you can actually implement. But I think today we are ready for a real show. Finally, after doing this for many, many, many years and doing this show for several months and getting so much feedback from so many of you, I had a great conversation with one of the listeners out there of the, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of millions. I don't know how many of you are listening now, but I had a great conversation. And one lady who is doing it all, she started her home-based business. She hired her kids to work in her home-based business. She went to open the accounts. She went to the bank and found out that they would not allow her to open a checking account for a minor. She contacted me right away and said, they will not let me open a checking account for my kids. I said, that cannot be the truth. I sent her to a couple of banks that I knew personally would open accounts for minors because I had accounts for my kids when they were minors, and she didn't have any luck. And we finally worked through that problem because when I was visiting one of the great cities that I love to visit, I went into the bank and I said, hey, what's going on? And it was true. They changed the regulations because there are so many financial policies in place to prevent money laundering. There used to be a time when you could walk in the bank and you could deposit cash into someone's account, but you can't do that now. You can't just go in the bank and deposit cash into somebody's account. You actually have to sign paperwork, show IDs, and all this other good stuff. So I talked to her, and she said, Lynn, I'm listening to your podcast. I'm listening to YouTube. I'm listening to the Millionaires Roundtable, and sometimes I just get overwhelmed. And I appreciate her for saying that because she's in it. And so with all of that, with all of the doing that we are doing, because I always say it takes a lot of undoing to undo the doing you have done. One of you reached out to me yesterday and shared that you got to file bankruptcy again, and you don't understand why. Let me tell you why you got to file bankruptcy, because you didn't do the right thing, and it's okay. Awareness is the key to change. Knowing what is wrong is the beginning of changing what is wrong and making it right. So with all of that, I have to talk about this topic today. And today's topic is the top 10 signs of a poor mentality. The top 10 signs of a poor mentality. And I'm going to have to say, I'm going to step on some toes today. I might even step on my own toes. So if you hear me say something and then I say, ouch, it's because I stepped on my own foot. If we are going to change this cycle, what cycle am I talking about? I'm talking about the cycle that has started at the top that says we don't want to educate people about money. I was watching a very interesting video by Robert Kiyosaki, you know, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And his poor dad, who actually had a PhD, a government job, basically told him that the government does not want anyone to learn about money because the government instructs what the teachers teach. The government tells the teachers what they can teach. The government sets the protocol for curriculum and so on and so forth. So he specifically and very basically said that if you want to learn about money, then you need to be an entrepreneur because employees are taught to learn their jobs. And an entrepreneur is taught to learn business and money. And so what I want us to understand is that there is something called a poor mentality. And don't get mad if you hear something and you find out that it's you. Just If you can't beat them, join them. Once you identify something, then fix it. And so the first thing that I'm going to say, and we're going to take a quick break, the first sign that you are a victim of a poor mentality is caring what other people think about you. Let me tell you who the other people are. Your children, your family members, your neighbors, your sorority sisters, your co-workers, your colleagues, the people you went to school with, the people down the street, the neighbors with the new car. The first sign that you have a poor mentality is that you care what people think about you. I have a saying, rich people stay rich because they act poor, and poor people stay poor because they act rich. And poor people stay poor acting rich in front of other poor people, which is real crazy. We're going to take a break. It's the Millionaires Roundtable. I'm your host, Lynn Richardson. It's WVON, 1690 AM, The Talk of Chicago. It's 1017 on The Talk of Chicago. We have to take a break for news and traffic with Annette Flournoy. We'll be right back. WVON.
More of the Millionaires Roundtable coming up on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.
Are you struggling with your finances? Have you tried everything you can think of but just can't seem to get ahead on your own? Well, it's time to get some help. With a financial coach, you can find out what you don't know and learn to make better choices when it comes to your finances. Lynn Richardson's Wealth Vision 2020 Financial Coaching provides step-by-step instructions daily, a one-stop shop to create your budget, access to vetted financial coaches in specialized areas such as mortgages, insurance, real estate, investing, taxes, and more. Lynn Richardson and her team will help you set goals, undo bad habits, push you past your own beliefs, and gain peace with your finances. Go to www.lynnrichardson.com. That's www.lynnrichardson.com or call 888-LYNN-123. That's 888-596-6123 for more info today.
Hey now, welcome back. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson. It's WVON 1690 AM, The Talk of Chicago, and we are creating millionaires one family at a time. Today's topic, $1 million topic, is the top 10 signs of a poor mindset. And the first sign of a poor mindset is caring what other people think about you. Let me help you understand why this is a sign of a poor mindset. Because as long as you care about what people think about you, then other people control your spending. When you care about what other people think about you, then they control your thinking about your value. When you care about what other people think about you, then really it's a form of pride. You see, pride is not simply, I think I'm all that. Pride is when you think you're not anything at all. Pride and shame are all the same, because pride says, I'm only down here, but I'm going to make people think I'm up there. Shame says, I'm only down here and I should be up there. In both scenarios, the position that you perceive yourself to be in or that you are in is below, and there is some attachment to being at a position that's higher. So I remember I used to tell my late Grandma B, when I would go to her house and ask her if she was hungry, and she didn't want to be a bother. So she'd say no. And then if she didn't have any money, she didn't want us to spend any money. Let me tell you something. When pride enters the equation, there is no intelligent thought that comes after. Ezekiel 28 says, your pride corrupted your splendor corrupted your wisdom. Basically, your pride corrupts your wisdom. That's why pride comes before destruction. So Grandma B would say, I wasn't hungry. Well, guess what? That's not an intelligent thing to say, because you really are hungry, lady. And if you don't eat, you might pass out from some kind of diabetic attack or whatever the case may be. So shame, pride and shame are all the same. And when you care about what other people think about you, one of the two is going to surface. Let me repeat. When you care about what other people think about you, one or the other is going to surface. Either your pride is going to surface and you're going to go out and spend all the money that you don't have, like I did, like a crazy person. You know, this money problem is not a money problem. It is a math problem. 1 + 1 = 2. And if your stuff adds up to 100, guess what? You're going to be crazy. If 1 + 1 = 2, if your stuff adds up to 1,000, you're going to be really crazy. Well, I was triple dipple crazy because 1 + 1 was equaling 2, and I had no concept of what I was spending until one day the bottom completely fell out, and I had to stop and I had to look at it, and it was my pride that was fueling my decisions. And then at some point, shame kicks in. What happens when you can no longer afford your home and you don't want anybody to know what's going on? So you don't say anything. You don't open your mouth. You're worried about what the neighbors are going to think. You're worried about what the people at church are going to think. You're worried about what all the people who said you couldn't buy a house, and now that you bought a house, you got to prove them wrong, so you got to keep the house. And then you got to go get more furniture for the house. I can't tell you, I was just having a conversation with Lynn's List member, Monica and David Poland, and they were saying how they had to help someone pay their attorney's fees for their closing because as soon as they got approved for the house, they started to go out and buy furniture. Why did they go out and buy furniture? Because getting the house wasn't enough. They wanted to prove to people that they were balling, that they were doing it. So they went out and bought furniture to get the house as well. So rich people stay rich because they act poor, and poor people stay poor because they act rich, and poor people stay poor acting rich in front of other poor people, which is real crazy. And so that's why the number one sign of a poor mindset is caring what people think about you. Let me tell you what to do to counter that. I want you to learn how to say no. It becomes very difficult to say no. And saying no comes in many different formats. If they ask you, hey, can you go take this trip with us? Or can you go out to do this with us? Or can you do that? You simply say no. That's it. Don't say anything else. Don't put yourself in a position where you feel like you have to cover up something that would be shameful because now you have to explain. You don't owe anybody a decision. Let me help you all understand something. You know that I've been all over the world on television, you name it, and there and back. And the world of entertainment says that you have to go and buy a certain type of clothing or outfit. It has to be at a certain cost. It has to have a certain designer. Let me tell you something. My stuff comes from Macy's, and it's on the sale rack, and it's $59.99 or $69.99. And if I like it, if I really like it, I'm going to wear it again. Let me tell y'all something. I'm going to wear the same dress again. So if you see me on Steve Harvey and then you see me somewhere else and you say she had on the same dress, let me tell you something. If you want me to wear something different, buy it. That's what I want you to tell people. If they want you to do something different with your money, then tell them to give you the money to do it with. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson. It's WVON. We are talking about the top 10 signs of a poor mindset, and we're going to not only identify them, but we're going to clear it up. But right now, it's the bottom of the hour, and we have to take a break for news, traffic, and weather with Annette Flournoy. Don't turn that dial. It's WVON.
Are you an exceptional real estate or financial services professional? Do you have a business or service that can improve the lives of others? You may qualify to serve the world as a member of Lynn's List. Visit www.lynnmillionaire.com. That's www.lynnmillionaire.com or call 888-LYNN-123 extension 5. That's 888-LYNN-123 extension 5 for more details.
Hey, now welcome back. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable right here on WVON 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago, the voice of the nation, my favorite radio station. I am your host, Lynn Richardson. We are creating millionaires one family at a time, one day at a time, $1 at a time, and one dime at a time. And if we're going to have a millionaire mindset, then we absolutely positively have to get rid of the poor mindset. So today I am talking about the top 10 signs of a poor mindset, and I am taking calls at 312-374-8130. That's 312-374-8130. Kelvin, I think you are on the line waiting for me. Are you there, Kelvin? Okay, so when Kelvin is ready, just give me a cue to let me know to go back to the phone lines. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. We're talking about the top 10 signs of a poor mindset. And the first one is caring about what other people think about you. And it's just as simple as that. Get in truth with yourself and be willing to fix what you don't want to face so you can actually face it. Deal with people in the category that they belong in. I said something today, people don't belong in the front row of your life. Some of them need to go to the balcony where you can't see them, but they can still see you shine, because people are always going to look on. People are always going to have something to say. You can do everything right and you still won't satisfy everybody. So I think you should get in the business of dealing with your own truth, satisfying yourself, and letting the chips fall where they may in terms of what people think about you. I had to get rid of all of the people who meant me no good, whether it was a certain look that they gave me, whether it was comments that I heard, whether it was absolute things that I heard that were said about me behind my back from friends, from family members, whoever it was. When I made the decision to stop doing the things that I was doing to myself to create my own situation, then I had to forget about what people thought about me. Now, here's the second sign of a negative mindset, the second sign of a poor mindset, when you blame everybody for your problems. Now, I know that there are things that have happened in life, and I know that there are things that other people have done to you. I know people have lied to you. I know people have stolen from you. I know people have cheated. I know people have done all kind of things. But the thing that I'm going to say to you is this. Did you let them do it? Was there a clue anywhere? Wasn't there a sign? Didn't something feel kind of woozy or just kind of uneasy in your spirit? Did your stomach feel a little anxious? Did you have a thought and say, I think there's something wrong with that, but you chose to overlook it? I am encouraging everyone to read one of the greatest books about personal responsibility, and that is Success Principles by Jack Canfield. And it starts out with a simple principle that basically says you are 100% responsible for your life. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond. So if everything that has happened to you is everybody's fault, let me explain this to you. You are the common denominator. I had to stop blaming everything and everybody. And let me tell you the number one thing I had to stop blaming for my situation. I was blaming my situation on my childhood, the way I grew up. My mother was this, my father was that, my grandmother had to raise me, I was in the projects and blah, 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 blah. And I had this whole story that I was telling everybody all the time about why I was being less than excellent. And one day, a wise woman said to me, so what? Now, it shocked me, but it was the best so what of my life. Because basically she said to me, okay, that happened to you, but are you going to punish the rest of us for the rest of our lives because of what happened to you that you had no control over, obviously, and that we have no control over today? So the first thing to let you know that you have a poor mindset is that you care what other people think. So if you have automatically just decided you don't care, let me tell you something. You are not only on the road to becoming to financially free, you are truly on the road to becoming a millionaire. Because when you want to do something that's $1 million quality, you have to go against the odds. If you do what you always did, you will get what you always got. And I'm going to tell you, you can't get where you're going doing the same thing you did yesterday. And I don't care how great you are. I think I'm relatively successful. And I say relatively, I'm not just trying to be humble on the sly. I think I am relatively successful. I am marginally successful because I have not achieved the tip of the iceberg in terms of what I see for myself, my future, my community, my family, in terms of generational wealth and all of these things. So in order for me to do anything more than what I'm doing right now in this moment, I have to get better. I have to grow. So stop caring what people think about you. The next thing to let you know if you have a poor mindset is that you blame everybody for all your problems. Here's the third thing. The third thing to let you know if you have a poor mindset is that you respond to everything with a negative perspective. You respond to everything with a negative perspective. So I've had some time to think over the past few weeks. My life has been forever changed, and I've had a lot of time to pray and sit and think and cry and, but really think about where am I going to access my power and what is next for me. And I know that what is next for me is for me to really get in the business of helping the people that I really know up close and personal. Not my immediate family. My immediate family is straight. My husband, my kids, my close friends, we are connected. We are all moving towards a goal. Everybody has their own individual assignments. They're in their lane, but we're moving in a certain direction. But I've got to help my family. I've got to help my cousins. I've got to help my siblings. I've got to help people because I've spent so much time out here grinding to get to the next level that I don't want to get all the way up there and then I'm 95,000 years old and it's too late to go pull anybody up. So I want to help the family members and the people that I grew up with. But let me tell you something. I spent a lot of time talking to people and I said, hey, I've got this idea and I think this thing could be great. Now, the idea is just as ridiculous as when I said I was looking in a magazine and I saw Susie Orman and I said, oh, that's supposed to be me. So I called Russell Simmons' office. I didn't know him. He didn't know me. I emailed the office. They didn't know me. I didn't know anybody who knew them. And I demanded a meeting, and I eventually got a meeting, and I was running a national program when I left my first meeting. Now, that's bizarre. You got to be bizarre. If you have a dream, you have to be crazy. So what I was sharing with these people around me, some of them family members, I ain't going to lie, all of them were family members. And as soon as I said what the dream is, now, I have achieved probably 100 times more than everybody in the room. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying that because it's true. I have defied the odds. I have achieved a certain amount of success. And the first thing I heard most people say was something negative. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, that's not going to work. Oh, that's this, that, and the other. And let me tell you what I did. I shut down. I just stopped. I stopped talking because I see where you are. Let me help you understand something about people with a wealthy mindset. Now, I'm not talking about their personal behavior. I'm not talking about what you think about them. I'm not talking about what you think about their religion or what they do or what their trade is. I'm talking about their energy. And the one thing that I know about wealthy-minded people is that they always believe that everything is possible. They always believe that something that they see can actually happen. And when they hear something that is just as crazy, they say, how can we do it? Which leads me to the number 4 sign that you have a poor mindset. You have a poor mindset if you respond to everything that you hear that is unfamiliar to you with a statement rather than a question. Let me repeat. A sign of a poor mindset is when you respond to unfamiliar things with a statement rather than a question. Let me give you an example. You call my office and I say, listen, you're going to be a millionaire. You say, I'm never going to be a millionaire. That's a statement. The question should be, how am I going to be a millionaire? Let's just say somebody calls you and says, hey, we're going to start this business. Oh, I can't afford it. That's a statement. It closes your mind. Instead, you should ask a question. How am I going to afford it? Let's say I'm going to host this meeting. I've invited several people to come to a planning meeting because big corporations plan. Big corporations take their time, and big corporations plan far in advance. Most big corporations are doing their planning for 2020 now. And what I realized a couple weeks ago is that they started doing it actually this summer. So I invited several people to come out to LA so that we could plan just like the corporations do. And half the people said they can't do it, they can't afford it, they don't know why, they don't know how, this, that, and the other. That's the sign of a poor mindset. And I know I'm stepping on some toes for real right now because I'm talking about some real situations. The question should be, I know that I have limitations, but how can I get there? I know that I've got a job, but how can I do it? I know I don't have money for a plane fare, but how am I going to make it happen? Because the door has been opened for me. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson. It's WVON. We have to take a break for traffic and weather with Annette Flournoy. We'll be right back. WVON.
More of the Millionaires Roundtable coming up on the Talk of Chicago. 1690 WVON.
Do you want to leave a legacy to your loved ones? Do you know the difference between an estate plan and a will? Are you newly engaged and concerned about getting a prenuptial agreement? Are you married to your child's mother or father? And do you know what happens to insurance money if you are not? Call your wealth counselor, Attorney Deidre Wood-Stokes. With over 22 years of experience, Attorney Stokes has all the answers you need to help you secure your family's financial future. You can find Attorney Stokes on Lynn's list at www.lynnmillionaire.com. That's www.lynnmillionaire.com or call 888-LYNN-123. That's 888-596-6123. Protect your legacy now.
Hey, now, welcome back. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson. It's WVON 1690 AM, the talk of Chicago. Today's $1 million topic is the top 10 signs that you may have a poor mindset, the top 10 signs of a poor mindset. And yes, we are doing everything that we need to do, spending less money, saving more money, getting our money back, hiring our kids in our home-based business. But even with all of that doing, what if there are 4 or 5 things on this list that are keeping you from advancing? Because I'm so excited about the movement, but I want to see a shift. And let me give you an example that you can relate to. If you are on the treadmill and you're jogging, you are moving. You're moving, but you're not going anywhere. You're staying in one spot. You're exerting a lot of energy. Your heart rate is going up. You're sweating, and you could actually get off that treadmill and go talk to 1,000 people and say how hard you worked, and they'd be so impressed. And you'd say, every single morning I get on the treadmill. But you're on the treadmill and you're running and you're not going anywhere. I want you to go somewhere. I want you to shift out of that spot. I want you to move to another dimension. If your net worth is $10,000, I want it to be $20,000. If it's $50,000, I want it to grow to $100,000. If your net worth is $200,000, we want to get it to $500,000, and so on and so forth. If you've got one stream of income, we want to get 3 streams of income. If you've got 3, we want to make sure that they're working together like a symphony, and we want to develop the 4th stream of income. We want to balance your budget. We want to shift. We want to get to the next level, and the only way to get to the next level is to change your mind. The word says that the poor will always be among us. The poor will always be among us. And let me tell you, it starts in your mind. It starts with what you think. If you think you can't, you won't, because your words become flesh, just like the word became flesh. If you think you can, you will. If you believe something is possible, the Bible says that everything is possible for him who believes, she who believes. Let me tell you something. There's nothing that I've ever seen that hasn't manifested. If I could see it, it happened. When I was a little kid living in the projects, I saw myself going to another school outside of the community that I lived in. I saw myself transferring myself and my little brother. I saw myself getting on that bus. I saw myself going to a coveted high school. I saw myself going to a great college. I saw myself being married with children, a healthy marriage, healthy children. I saw myself being the Black Susie Orman. I saw it all. I saw it before it happened, and I believed that it was possible, and anybody who got in my way got ignored. Let me repeat. Anybody who got in my way got ignored. I didn't get mad. I did better than that. I gave them none of my energy. I withdrew it all. So the other thing that you have to do is do not engage everybody's energy. That's the next thing that I would say is a sign of a poor mindset. Somebody does something and then you have to respond to it. They're not even on your level. Let that go. Leave that alone. You don't have to deal with that. You don't have to wrangle with that. Let me tell you something. Some people can't be told. They got to be showed. And I said that grammatically incorrectly on purpose. Some people can't be told. They got to be showed. So you can show some people much better than you can tell them. I'm taking a few calls at 312-374-8130. Karen, you are on the Talk of Chicago.
Well, hello, Queen. It's always a pleasure to hear you teach. Number one, I missed you when you first got on, so what was the scripture so I could write that down? And number two, all your programs are fantastic. But today, baby, you teaching. Because when you said awareness is the first sign of change, we cannot conquer what we do not confront. And if we were to listen, if everybody was to start listening to you or listening to things like this, we will see a change. Because guess what? I don't want to hear no more about what the white, purple, and the green people are doing. It's what we're not doing. And I'm like you. When I got a vision, I will remove myself if the energy is not there. Hey, Queen, keep doing what you're doing. Love you.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Karen. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable, and the scripture for the day, I didn't open it up. I kind of slid it in on the back, but it was simply, you will always have the poor among you. That's John 12:8 from the New International Version. The New Living Translation says, you will always have the poor among you. The English Standard Version says, for the poor you always have with you, but you do not always have me. And I have to say this. The world has decided that poor people must exist. In order for there to be rich people, there have to be poor people. And when I say rich, I'm not talking about the amount of money you have. I'm talking about the amount of peace you have, the harmony that exists, that coexists between the different elements of your life. People think that they can act funky and have a great business. People think that they can have a great business but then not deal with the hurt and the pain in their lives. It's all connected. You cannot separate one part of yourself from the other. I hear a lot of people say, it's not personal, this is business. What is the difference between the two? Because who I am personally is who I am when I show up in business. That same personality that you're going to get at the bid whist table when I'm playing cards and I run a Boston on you is the same person that you're going to get when I'm in the boardroom. It's the same person you're going to get on the Millionaires Roundtable. It's the same person you're going to get on the Steve Harvey Show. It's the same person you're going to get at church. They have asked me to take on a pastoral role, and I said, are you sure? Are you sure? Because I'm going to give it to you real. And so the poor will always be among us. And if that is the case, we are talking about the top 10 signs of a poor mindset. And the one that I'm going to leave you with, and I'm going to continue, here's a sign of a poor mindset. When you work for money and not purpose. You see, when you work for money and only money, then money controls you. But when you work for purpose, when you are free from material illness, when money doesn't even change your Richter scale, let me explain what I mean by that. I didn't make any money working for Russell for a couple of years. I didn't make money working for MC Light for the first 6 months. I didn't make money working for a lot of people. I don't even want their money because when I come into the room, when I come into the company, I shift everything. I change it. I save money. So when I get a check, I've already made that money myself. I brought it in the door, and I'm just telling you how much of it you're going to give to me. You're listening to the Millionaires Roundtable. I am your host, Lynn Richardson. It's WVON. We're going to continue with the top 10 signs of a poor mindset. Until then, follow me at Lynn Millionaire. Go to LynnMillionaire.com. I love you. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.